Hey, good morning from the office. We're North Georgia's only live online morning show. Hold on just a minute. I'm turning my volume off here. Sometimes I forget and I don't turn the volume off, and next thing I know, phone rings or something happens that interrupts the show, and that's pretty rude. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. There has been many times, and I always come to this audience and just level with you. There's been many times that I have left in the course of the day, finished the show, went through a couple meetings here in the office, and left in the course of the day wondering what I would do the following morning. What would we do? Because I like to bring something on a daily basis. I try not to just go and search the internet and find little most popular stories of the morning. I try to find something on a daily basis that we're bringing some sort of information that is solid and that requires research, time. But here recently, and let me just say this, okay? It has become so easy to do the show based on, it's just so apparent what the left is doing. It's so apparent what direction they're going in. It's so apparent. And I have, whether you like him or not, I know some people get, upset with me. And I'll say that because I know, because you feel I'm over the top some days in support of Donald Trump, the president. Some days you feel I'm over the top in that support. But here's what it is this is getting easier, folks, if you will stick with it. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Now, there's a lot of tough days ahead when it comes to the election. We'll talk about that. But Trump has done an outstanding job in 14 and 15 months, the president of the United States, in exposing them, ruffling their feathers, getting them all worked up. And every time he tweets something, which there's been so much discussion, okay, over whether you agree if he should use Twitter and do some of the things he should do. So much discussion. So much discussion that he does not act presidential, that he is the commander in tweet. All of this. But you realize, in the last 15 months, his tweets and the way he has handled things have pushed an exposure to information and truly who's in the swamp, how the swamp operates, and where we have to go to drain it. Whether you like his direction, whether you like his technique, it's there. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So I'm just saying this show gets easier by the day based on them the exposure of the left. I probably should not say them exposing themselves. That probably is not the way we should go with that. Maybe we shouldn't frame it that way. So anyhow, I'm concerned with the whole exposing anything. I just, something about that. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. We continue this morning with our candidates. That are running for office. We're going to have statewide Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Georgia. David Schaefer will be with us at 8:30 this morning. All right. And he has a couple big endorsements. He got one from Ted Cruz, one from Newt Gingrich, a couple big endorsements. But we're going to ask him some questions this morning. He is currently the Senate Pro Temp, which is right there, the second ranking in the Senate, right under Lieutenant Governor, and he's been there for a couple years, so we're going to talk to him about that, some of the legislation that did not pass in this past session, and what his goals would be if you decide, the voters, that he should be the next lieutenant governor of Georgia. So that's at 8:30. Then tomorrow we're going to be at Sycamore. No, we're not going to be at Sycamore Crossing. I don't want to take that wrong. You know I love Sycamore Crossing and our friends. But tomorrow we're going to be at Circuit World. Apologize for the Sycamore Crossing. I just have that thought of being outdoors here soon in the springtime. But we're going to be tomorrow at Circuit World, our friends there at Circuit World in Blue Ridge. And we have 8:15. Ask the Doc. Dr. William Whaley is traveling, so we're going to have Dr. Ray Tidman's going to be with us in the morning. I look forward to that. Always a great segment with Dr. Ray Tidman, Ask the Doc, in the morning. We're going to have the All-Star Political Panel, and man, do we have a lot to talk about with Rick and Bruce, and I'm not for sure if Jane will be joining us tomorrow, but our panel tomorrow there, and we may, I'm not for sure yet, we'll make some calls, we may have a local Fannin County candidate. We've been doing statewide candidates and state representatives, but we may have a local candidate tomorrow for a couple minutes on the show in Blue Ridge. We'll see, because we're going to continue every day. This is the place you want to tune in, 8 o'clock every morning, so we can continue to bring these candidate interviews and discussions, and we'll keep going over and over. We did have this week, we started a very busy week. We started Monday out with, we've had Brian Kemp, candidate for governor, on the show. We've had Hunter Hill, candidate for governor, on the show of Georgia. This week we had also Hunter Hill, Brian Kemp, and Michael Williams, all three candidates for governor. We have not received a return confirmation from Clay Tippins or Casey Cagle. We just got back from both of them. They're a little busy with their schedule right now, so hopefully next week they can get on the show. All right, let's go into, forget Amazon right now and forget the post office. You and I know the absolute truth of the Sunday delivery deal that Amazon has done. You and I know the truth that there's a portion of every single mail truck that goes out that's basically free to Amazon, whether they like you knowing that. And, you know, if the government, sometimes I make the error of saying if the government, if you, the American people, did not supplement, okay, the U.S. Postal Service, you would see the empty post office if they had to make a living the old-fashioned way and earn it, okay? No government-funded pensions in advance, okay? All the above. The list is very long. We don't have time. You would see the empty post offices much like you would see the empty Sears or the empty stores, department stores that have gone out, or Jeffrey the Giraffe Toys R Us. You would see that in the United States Postal Service, or you would see changes. But we all know the government protection of your mailbox, and the only one that can go there is the United States Postal Service. So we know that Amazon is being subsidized, whether they want to admit it. There are so many articles out right now attacking the President of the United States, saying this is personal against Amazon. We got Jeff Bezos, that is personal against Jeff Bezos, Amazon, and the President, and because of the Washington Post and negative press and so on and so forth. Folks, I'm just telling you now, if Amazon was required to pay the actual rates, we all know there's a delivery agreement, okay? We all know there's a delivery agreement with Amazon that you and I cannot see with the United States Postal Service. That's very well redacted. Second, there is a level of postal workers that have been put in place to pay them less. Okay? And they deliver for Amazon. The United States Postal Service has even put in a special level of employment that to work on Sundays for Amazon that does not get the regular postal delivery pay scale, just for Amazon. So we know that, and we know the president has exposed that, and that's what has them so upset. Now, let's start with just a little bit of fun. I know we're already in the 8:10. I keep saying let's start, but I wanted to do this yesterday, Amanda. If you drive through, and tell me this is not funny, we'll talk about this a little later. If you drive through the Sonic in Gulfport, Mississippi, all right? A Sonic in Mississippi is sending you a message. If you go through the drive-thru in Gulfport, Mississippi at the Sonic, did I not send you a picture of that?
Hang on a second. I can click one real quick.
If you drive through there, there is a sign that says, if you are smoking weed in the drive-thru, you will not be served. Please show some common courtesy and smoke and air out before pulling up to order. Thank you, management. So, you know, the Sonic is getting a little tired on Saturday night of two stoners sitting in the drive-thru wanting to know if they want fries. I'm just serious. That's funny. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. The caravan, okay? The caravan and sending the troops to the border, the southern border. Now, we're going to send, the President of the United States is sending, and let's just clear this up. We'll get into this very deep at 9 o'clock also. The President is sending the national, he has signed an order resolution to enact the National Guard. Now the governors need to follow that. All right, there is a system there that has to be followed. And we're wondering if Moonbeam, Governor Moonbeam out there in California, will reject the Commander-in-Chief's call to send the National Guard to the border. All right? That being said, and we're going to get into it a little deeper at 9 o'clock. That being said, if border crossings are down, and that's what you're hearing the left yell, okay? The left does not talk about the so many MS-13 gang members that crossed the border under the guise of unaccompanied minors that were brought into this country that are actually gang members, MS-13 gang members. All right? If border crossing is down, all right, and it's the lowest it's been in 46 years as the media is blasting out this morning. And it started going down in 2008, somewhat like Barack Obama did something great to slow border crossings, illegal border crossings. Then why send the National Guard? I'm going to tell you why. It's real simple. We'll get into it at 9 o'clock. It's real simple. Let's just use simple math. 10,000 were coming in. Let's say 6,000 were coming in, all right, for jobs. Let's say the economy went so downhill there were no jobs. Let's say our NAFTA agreement sent our jobs to Mexico and they did not need to cross the border because they could find a job at home. Let's say those two factors fell into play. And instead of 10,000 coming through the border, only 4 are coming across the border. So the left media wants to tell you that border crossings are down 60%. That seems to make sense, right? And that plays well. So why send the National Guard? Because, folks, the border crossings that we're having right now are the bad hombres, as the president put it. The people returning for 4 and 5 times. The criminals, the gangs, the drug runners. So, yeah, border crossing may be down. Percentages may be low. Because guess what? They're not running across the border to get a job right now. Because we can't find enough people to work. But why do they have to run across the border for a job? We sent them all our jobs. So we'll talk about that more at 9 o'clock. The left, the Twitter feed. Let's just go ahead with this also. The caravan. Do you have pictures? Okay. The caravan. The left has spun their head off. I'm telling you, if President Donald Trump did not use Twitter, okay, like he does, you and I out here in middle America would not know what's going on if we left it up to the media, the big corporate media on the left, to tell us. Well, President Donald Trump comes out Saturday and starts tweeting about, and it's Easter weekend, and why would he say this on Easter weekend? And you know, where most presidents are going to church with their family, he's tweeting something out. Just couldn't help himself. Trump wins migrant, and put both of those, just, I got a couple pictures, whichever ones you want. Trump wins migrant caravan changes. Migrant caravan changes mind after Trump announces U.S. forces on the border. On Wednesday, a thousand person caravan making its way north through Mexico while traveling to the United States decided to abandon its plan to reach the U.S. after President Donald Trump announced Tuesday that he was developing the military, that he was deploying the military to the southern border to increase border security. We will wrap it up in Mexico City, they said. We have support teams at the border if there are people who need assistance there, but they will have to travel on their own. There's too many children, 450 in all. There's a lot of babies. Hopping the train we did in the past would be crazy. Guess what? President Trump said, I'm sending the troops. President Trump said, Mexico, you better stop it. President Trump said, I will immediately readjust NAFTA the way I want to without asking. Guess what? Government of Mexico stopped them. Mexico is helping them now, okay? Mexico responded admirably, I can't get that last. Admirably. Thank you. And we thank the government for the way it's handled this caravan. Mexico, all right, said, hey, you better stop. President Trump won that one. They do not want you to know that he won that. Now, I want to go over one more because I've only got 10 minutes and these is something else we're going to talk about. All right. Why does the left want to get rid of the EPA? The EPA Secretary, Scott Pruitt. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm just going from memory. Scott Pruitt, Attorney General from Oklahoma, okay? And if you look in his background, Scott Pruitt did sue the EPA, the state as Attorney General of Oklahoma. He did sue the EPA. And why does the left want to get rid of Scott Pruitt? Okay? And I'll tell you now, there has been so many. This man is assisting the President of the United States on a daily basis in draining the swamp. All right? These big agencies, I'm telling you, you've got Board of Education, you got the National Board of Education or Education, whatever. Okay, you've got EPA, every single one of these departments are enormous monsters, the IRS, that have to be dismantled. And it's very methodical, and it's very slow, and it's not easy to do. And this is the man for the job. In 14 months, he has done what he's had to do to cut EPA regulations around to the point that in hundreds of projects that have been on the books in states for years, projects that have been taking years to get EPA approvals, are now underway, now have start dates, now have these red tape EPA hurdles out of the way, and they're moving forward. And I'm telling you, the left can't take it, okay? The left can't take it. They cannot. It's driving them crazy. They don't have enough fresh air, clean air, carbon emissions, all the above. They're going crazy. You look at the Climate Paris Accord, you look at environmentalists, they are losing it with the president and this guy here. But they need rid of him for a couple reasons. They could stop or slow the movement of projects. They could stop or slow the approval of new projects, okay? Stop or slow. Because if this guy goes, we cannot let the left push this guy out of office. If Scott Pruitt goes, folks, I'm telling you now, they will not approve the next EPA secretary. They will not. It's 2018. The Republicans don't have the guts. They know it. The Republicans don't have the guts to replace Scott Pruitt with an EPA secretary that mirrors him or even better. They don't have the guts. And we all know for some reason Mitch McConnell is allowing Democrats to filibuster the president's nominees, and they're not getting confirmation hearings. We know that. So what happens when you get rid of somebody and get them out of the way? Now, what happens when the president gets them out of the way, McMaster's, and he wants to move John Bolton in place? We trade up. Don't have time to argue whether you agree that Bolton is good or bad. We trade up, okay? Whether you agree or not, when you see President Trump move Rex Tillerson out of the way and Mike Pompeo in, we trade up, okay? When we move Mike Pompeo out of the head of the CIA, and I just at a blank, the lady's name, the deputy director of the CIA, we move up. When the president's moving these cabinet members, we move up. But when the media attacks until the president gets rid of, or they run somebody out of town, we move down. And what they want is they want these undersecretaries, okay? They want these undersecretaries that have been in these agencies for years to be interim directors. They love interim directors. Like, remember Andrew McCabe, now fired FBI, former FBI deputy director, interim director after Comey got fired. They love interim directors because they're lifelong deep state employees, period. So if they can move Scott Pruitt out of the way, who is the deputy director right now? Okay, put the picture up. Now, I do not see this in, but the picture is Mike Flynn, not to be confused with Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn is the acting deputy administrator to the EPA under Scott Pruitt. This is a lifelong guy. Mike began his EPA career in Office of Land and Emergency Management, where he served various leadership positions for nearly 20 years. 20-year man right there. But I read an article this morning that said he's retiring April 3rd. So where would that leave us? I'm not for sure, but let's just take another chance. Let's put the picture up here. Donna Vizian, I guess that's her name, okay? She's looks to be next in line under Mike Flynn. Principal Deputy Assistant Administrator of the EPA's Office of Administration and Resources Management. Let's see. She's also served as acting on all management, administrative, financial, effective at 14 facilities. She's been, let's see, managing a staff of 29. Well, it looks to be she has 20 years. Before, she spent 27 years in Region 2, where she was most recently regional administrator. In the capacity, she oversaw the management operations of the region. She also served as regional comptroller, and she has a long list of state environmental headquarters, regions, grant recipients. Just the quintessential, I don't know if I'm using the word correctly, bureaucrat, a lifer in the EPA or surrounding environmental protection. That's why they want Scott Pruitt out of the way, folks. Because what you don't know and what you may not be aware of is how many, okay, projects that Scott Pruitt has given the green light to as EPA director with Donald Trump as President of the United States that they want stopped immediately in its tracks. And they've got to figure out how to do it. And that's why the attack to try to get rid of this man. And that's all they have this morning. All politics is local, folks. Tip O'Neill. Remember, all politics is local? I want to explain that. I want to explain that in the 9 o'clock hour. All politics is local, because the Democrats, that's what they're falling under this time in 2018. They're taking the All Politics is Local page and they're running with it. I'm your host, BKP, North Georgia's only live online morning show. And when we come back, we will have Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor, State Senator David Schaefer. Take us to break.
The Tupelo Tea Mission is to provide over 80 premium tea blends for tea lovers who are looking for ways to explore new flavors and blends. Come visit Tupelo Tea, located in beautiful downtown Blue Ridge at Sycamore Crossing. Be sure to sample our various varieties of honey and tea. Visit us on the web at tupelotea.com or call us at 706-946-TEAS. That's TEAS. Tupelo Tea, located in beautiful downtown Blue Ridge.
Ace is your helpful place for paint and home goods, tools, outdoor living, and lawn equipment. But did you know Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge is a little bit more? We have hunting rifles and accessories for your next hunting trip. We have Amish furniture imported directly from Ohio. And we have Ace Custom Woodworks for all your custom wood project needs, from cabinets to artwork. Ace Hardware of Blue Ridge. We have your new house in stock.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Match Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart.
It's just this simple. Nobody beats Days on price. If it's a Chevy, you'll pay less at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. Now save $4,000 off a new 2018 Chevy Malibu, or save up to $10,000 off a new 2018 Silverado Crew Cab. It doesn't matter which Chevy you choose. Nobody beats Days on price. $10,000 off Silverados and $4,000 off Malibus at Days Chevy in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. And we continue our series of daily from 1 to 2 every day, bringing you candidates so you, the voters, can get the most information to make your decision here in the primary. We're joined now on the phone with Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor David Shafer. Mr. Shafer, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Let's get right into running for lieutenant governor. Why is this your chosen next step in your political career? I did read you go all the way back from being the chair of the Republican Party, and I'll say this: I've heard you tell this before, and maybe you want to share it. But you chaired the Republican Party when the Republican Party was trying to get control in the state. You went through those times with the Republican Party all the way up to now being the Senate pro temp. I think you were elected in, is it 2002? Am I wrong with that? Am I wrong with that? February of 2002 you took that office? That's
what I was elected to the state Senate, yes.
State
and then
Senate,
I became President pro temp in 2013.
Why Lieutenant Governor? Why is this the next step in your that you're seeking in politics?
In Georgia, the lieutenant governor is elected separately from the governor, and his or her principal duty is to be the president of the state Senate, where I've served for the last 15 years. I've spent my entire adult life trying to build up the Republican Party, elect Republican candidates to office, and then holding them accountable to the conservative promises that they've made on the campaign trail. That's what I've tried to do in the 16 years I've served in the state Senate, is implement the promises that we made when we were campaigning for office.
Okay, so you have worked through all the way. You remember? Did you serve in the Senate in the minority when it was in the minority?
When I was elected in 2002, in February 2002, Roy Barnes was the governor of Georgia, and the Democrats had a majority in both the House and the Senate. And then shortly thereafter, we elected Sonny Perdue as governor. We took a majority in the Senate, and then 2 years later, a majority in the House.
So you've served on both sides, the minority and the majority, and so you've seen the difficulty of trying to get a bill to the floor from the minority side of the aisle and get it voted through, or get an amendment on a bill, to now having control of that side.
That's right.
Well, let me ask you this: explain to our viewers, because sometimes no disrespect to the intelligence, even myself, I get confused sometimes. So what is the responsibility of the Senate pro tem? We just came out of the 2018 legislative session. What is the responsibility of the Senate President pro tem on the floor?
So the Lieutenant Governor is the President of the Senate, and the President pro tem presides in his absence. He serves as the President when the Lieutenant Governor is absent from the chamber, much as the Lieutenant Governor would serve as the Governor if the Governor was ever unavailable. The Lieutenant Governor has, the President pro tem also has some administrative roles in terms of managing the support staff of the Senate and in serving on the committees that make leadership decisions for the Senate. Now, I stepped down as President pro tem at the very beginning of the session so that I could concentrate full time on my campaign for Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, yes, sir. I understand that. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. What is the what in this past session? You're out there on the campaign trail and you're talking to voters. When you talk to voters, what in this last session passed as far as legislation that you are out there, it's in your campaign speech and you're excited that this legislation was passed for the voters in Georgia, and then what legislation did not make it through this past session that you supported or thought should make it through to the governor's desk?
Well, one of the things I'm most proud of is the income tax cut that we passed during this session of the General Assembly to return $5 billion to the taxpayers in the next 3 years. It lowers the state income tax from 6% to 5.75%, then down to 5.5%. So basically almost a 10% cut in the state income tax. I sponsored a constitutional amendment 3 years ago that was approved by the voters that caps the state income tax, that takes away the authority of the General Assembly to raise it any further. We're the only state in the country that has a constitutional guarantee that our income tax rate will never go up, and I'm in favor of lowering it. And I'm glad that we took the first steps during this session of the General Assembly, and hope to take additional steps if I have a chance to serve as Lieutenant Governor.
Well, let me ask you this. On both sides, whether you're in the House of Representatives or the state Senate, whether you're the Speaker or the Lieutenant Governor, there's always the legislation that makes it to the floor, the amendments that make it onto the legislation, and then there's that legislation that does not make it, and a lot of times there's accusations that big business, lobbyists, Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, business friendly, does not want certain legislation to go through, and you hear that. So let me ask you, as Lieutenant Governor, we have not. Now, we're a red state, supposedly, and don't take that wrong, sir, but supposedly we're a red state in the South with a Republican House, Republican Senate, and Republican governor. But we have states all around us that have passed several different religious liberty, religious freedom bills. And here in Georgia, we don't seem every year to be able to get something passed. And when we do, the governor has vetoed it. Were you in favor? Did you support the religious organization adoption amendment to that did not make it on to the foster care bill? But do you support that? And as a Lieutenant Governor, what kind of religious freedom bill could come to the floor that Lieutenant Governor David Shafer could support?
I supported the adoption amendment. I was actually, Brian, born in a home for unwed mothers and adopted as an infant, and I'm through Catholic Charities, and I'm a strong supporter of adoption, and I'm a strong supporter of faith-based adoption agencies. And the amendment that you're talking about simply protected faith-based adoption agencies from government interference if they followed the teachings of their affiliated church or religion in the placement of children. And I thought that was a common sense proposal that will encourage faith-based philanthropy, and I was disappointed that it didn't make its way all the way through the General Assembly.
So you don't feel that's discrimination in yourself because maybe there's several adoption agencies out there that are not faith-based or whatever, where there are several agencies where anyone defining themselves in any way could go and seek to adopt a child. Am I correct on that? Or
it's anti-discrimination because it protects the adoption agencies from discriminatory or retaliatory action from the government and encourages them to operate. We've seen Catholic Charities shut down in 4 states throughout the country from conducting adoptions because people had filed complaints with human rights commissions or other government agencies because of the fact that they were following the teachings of the Catholic Church in the placement of the children. You know, we've got a massive foster care crisis in this state, Brian, and we need all hands on deck. We want faith-based adoption agencies, secular adoption agencies. We want everyone pitching in to try to solve this problem, and it doesn't make sense for the government to be acting against church-based or faith-based adoption agencies as they try to help children.
Okay, well, I don't want to stay on that too long, but I'm listening to you, and based on what you're saying, Mr. Schaefer, because, you know, these are things that we read and we hear about, but, you know, bringing different companies to Atlanta and giving them tax abatements and deals like Mercedes and so many others, just the list goes on, that these big corporations are concerned on bills that could pass that would be discriminate, as they call it, against same-sex couples from adopting in an agency. Now we have HQ2, the headquarters for Amazon, wanting to come here. And I mean, I'm reading articles in several of the publications where maybe that bill alone and that mood of Georgia could possibly keep them out. You would not let outsiders per se affect your decision or what you just said is your belief this morning on our show, if that came to the floor?
No, we've got to act in the interest of Georgians. I'm always going to put Georgia first. I don't think that protecting faith-based adoption agencies will have any impact on Amazon one way or another. Texas passed a bill earlier or late last year, very strongly supporting faith-based adoption agencies, and Texas has not one but 2 cities on Amazon's top 20 list. So I think that a lot of times, you know, Amazon or other sort of business considerations will be thrown into these debates that really have nothing to do with the issues that we're debating.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let's switch gears, because we hear in the past 8 years, and I'm not asking you this morning to comment one way or the other, positive or negative on the governor, but we've heard for the last 8 years we continue to get statistics on crime and his focus on crime bills and so on and so forth in Georgia. But we are sitting with Atlanta actually being a hub for illegals, a hub for drug trafficking. I mean, we've got a lot of problems. Gangs, we have gangs all over the state now that have infiltrated this state. So let's stay with like drugs and drug trafficking through Atlanta, and how, as Lieutenant Governor, what kind of bills would you like to see to stiffen penalties, or maybe get the federal government involved? What say you?
Well, first, I would say I think Governor Deal's done a good job, and I've been a supporter of his. I don't see every issue exactly the same way that he does, but I do think he's done a good job as our governor. We do have some significant challenges. Gangs are increasingly and sadly becoming a problem, and we've got to confront those as aggressively as possible. Some of these gangs are foreign based, and controlling illegal immigration is part of the is part of the solution to that problem. Countries that don't control their borders cease to be countries, and which is why I support President Trump's efforts to secure our borders, to prevent the flow of people into the country illegally.
Well, let me just ask this. Some people, and I would like to hear, because as the lieutenant governor, and again, that's where I started, you as a lieutenant governor do get the call on bills that come up and go into committees and come out of committees and go for a vote. You have somewhat leadway of guiding those bills through the Senate. So what kind of bills and again, I'm not trying to be negative on the governor today, but there's been a lot of discussion that this has not been the strongest administration, or the bills that have been sent to his desk have not been the strongest on illegal immigrants in Georgia, from driver's license to giving driver's license tests in so many multiple languages, one thing after another. The state does not have a very good grade card when it comes to passing legislation on illegals. What say you, and what kind of legislation would you like to see brought to the Senate, if any, concerning enforcing some Georgia laws or changing some Georgia laws?
Well, we've banned sanctuary cities and sanctuary campuses, and both of those bills have been signed into law. I introduced additional legislation on sanctuary cities during this session of the General Assembly that will give the state criminal jurisdiction to investigate cities that choose to become sanctuary cities in an effort to prevent that from occurring. I supported the driver's license bill, which I thought was a very very reasonable. It simply has separately designed driver's licenses for people who are citizens and people who are not citizens of the country. The reality is that the driver's license is the universal identification card, and we need to make sure that it's not used to allow people who are not citizens to cast votes in elections, for a host of other things that should be reserved only to citizens of the United States of Georgia.
So that is a bill, the driver's license bill, that as Lieutenant Governor would have your support?
Absolutely. I supported it as a state senator. I voted for it every time, and would support it as Lieutenant Governor as well.
All right. I know I told you about 20 minutes, but I can't get out without what kind of budget. Now, I've read several things where zero-based budgeting, and I know you've been involved in that since your time in the Senate. What kind of budget changes would you say we need to maybe get some runaway spending, these are my words, out of control? And I'm going to say this, I hear different explanations, and I just use the 5-year period. I know it goes back much longer than that, but the 5-year period of, in the last 5 years, the Georgia state budget has gone up, okay? Has gone up $5.5 billion, an average of $1 billion every year. Is that really necessary, and is that what's required to facilitate the growth and to parallel growth, or is there places we can cut and do something with this budget and reduce the spending?
Those numbers are basically right. Now, when the economy crashed in 2008, revenues fell, and we had to cut almost $5 billion from the budget. But you're right. Now that the economy is growing again, revenues are coming in, and we've got additional money to spend. What I found in my 16 years is that we will spend every dollar that we get. And so we've got to put, which is one of the reasons that I'm in favor of lowering the income tax. It will reduce the number of dollars that's available to us, and force us to be better stewards of the tax dollars. When you have fewer dollars available, you'll be more efficient and careful in the spending decisions that you make. Which, one of the things I'm most proud of, Brian, is the zero-based budgeting initiative. When I was elected to the state senate in 2002, Georgia was on a continuation budget, so that the budget document that we voted on only described about 3 or 4% of the state spending, the new programs. And once a new program was passed by the General Assembly and signed into law, it automatically rolled over into each succeeding budget of the state under a single line item called continuation. And I introduced my very first term legislation to move us to zero-based budgeting, and I reintroduced it every 2 years for the next decade until Governor Deal finally signed it into law. And I think that helped us be a better steward of the tax dollars as well.
Didn't on your zero-based budgeting, I was reading when you supported and you pushed for zero-based budgeting and got that signed into law by Governor Deal, did you not also support, and I understand you're only one of many down there, that any tax revenue over and above the budget be returned to the taxpayers? Did I read something on that?
Absolutely. I've sponsored constitutional amendments that would, require surpluses to be either put into the rainy day fund or returned to the taxpayers to prevent that money from being pork barreled through the supplemental budget. That's a practice that has largely stopped.
Wait a minute. Before you say that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I followed that and I agree with you. It should be returned to the citizen, any surplus. But this past year we had a surplus and we had a budget amendment to spend it. Okay, I don't want to get the numbers wrong because I think it's in the area 170 million or something. I don't know what it was, but it was in the millions that we had a surplus. And when you look at the budget amendment to spend that additional surplus, it didn't look like it went to things that really seemed to be unfunded or that crucial. So would you have said, like, this past year we should have returned that surplus to the citizens?
Either returned it or added it to the shortfall reserve, so-called rainy day fund. I mean, we've got $2 billion that we've put into the shortfall reserve, which is a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but that only operates state government for about 30 days. And the reality is the money that we receive doesn't come in equally each month. You've got more sales tax revenue around the holidays. You've got more income tax revenue, around April 15th and the various tax filing deadlines. So you've got to have some cash money available to operate the government in those months where the revenue is down because it's not regularly received. And so, but yes, we've got to be as careful as possible with the tax dollars of the state, recognizing that they first have to be earned by somebody before we take it from them and make the decision to spend it.
Last question. I know we're out of time, and I appreciate you for staying longer than I told you we'd be on. But I just want to go to the Second Amendment, your support of the Second Amendment, where you stand. And I do have to ask, like I've asked most people, where do you stand on constitutional carry? I'm one of the strongest supporters of the Second Amendment under the Gold Dome. I've sponsored or co-sponsored 24 pieces of legislation designed to protect and expand our Second Amendment rights. I'm the only candidate for Lieutenant Governor who's been rated A+ by the National Rifle Association. My two opponents in the primary are nominally pro-Second Amendment, but neither one of them has ever sponsored a single piece of Second Amendment legislation. Okay. You didn't answer constitutional carry, but that's okay. I do know that's a big one. There's a lot of states that have constitutional carry and a lot that do not, that have concealed carry, much like we have here, or open carry in Georgia. Why do you think? Why do you think? How did you get? Why did Ted Cruz endorse David Shafer? I mean, go ahead.
He endorsed me because I'm the most conservative candidate running for lieutenant governor. Let me also say the Second Amendment is clear. Most of the amendments of the that make up the Bill of Rights have some sort of limitation on the government interfering with free speech or free religion or free press. The Second Amendment is not a limitation on government power. It's an absolute declaration that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, which is why I've been such a strong supporter of the Second Amendment and every piece of legislation protecting and expanding our Second Amendment rights. But I'm proud to have been endorsed by Ted Cruz, by Rick Santorum, by Newt Gingrich, by the Georgia Republican Assembly, which is the state affiliate of the National Federation of Republican Assemblies, and by the Republican Liberty Caucus, because I have spent 15 years fighting for the conservative values that we all share.
Well, Mr. Schaefer, we like we tell all candidates, we wish you well in the campaign, and we thank you for your willingness to serve, and we'd like to have you back on real soon. First opportunity we can get you back on, and if your campaign travels up here to North Georgia, let us know so we can get you in the studio, maybe stop by.
Thank you, Brian. This has been great.
Thank you, sir. You have a nice day. Okay, we've been talking with Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor David Schaefer, and we will try to get the other candidates on. We promise, one at a time. Here's what we're doing, and just so you know before we go to break, is every day after the show, we're sending 2 or 3 messages out. I've got a message into candidate for Secretary of State Josh McCoon. We're sending messages out. If you are watching any of the interviews and you want your candidate or a candidate out there that's saying, hey, how do I get on? We're not leaving you out. Send me a message, 706-889-9700. We'll get you scheduled into the show. We offer everybody these opportunities. The one thing that you need to know is all the candidates are coming on and they don't know the question. So they're stand-up. These are stand-up people, and no matter whether you agree with their positions, they're stand-up people in the fact that they come on, they don't know if I'm going to ask constitutional carry, they don't know if I'm going to ask the budget, and they come on and they go with it, and I respect that. That's stand-up. So 706-889-9700 or chief@fetyournews.com if you are a candidate out there and wondering how to get on the show. And just like I said, there's no real order. These interviews are all getting clipped and they're getting put on fetyournews.com under Election 2018. They're under there. Also, you can find them on our YouTube channel because our goal is to get you the most information when making your decision in the voting booth. And like I said, I send 2 or 3 out a day. We're scheduling a couple, sometimes 3. And I'm your host, BKP. Let's take a break and we'll be right back, Amanda.